Hello, this is Pastor Terry Goodman, and I want to welcome you to the Wesleyan Connection. This podcast is primarily for the clergy and laity of the Holston-Annual-Conference. Join with me now as I take a look around the Connection and share some of the things happening in the churches of our annual conference. Good morning, Holston Annual Conference. This is Pastor Terry Goodman, and it's time for our Wednesday get-together. That's right, it's time for the Wesleyan Connection podcast. I'm here in my studio recording this on a Tuesday night so that I can post it up and have it ready for you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And this is, as I promised for the last 2 weeks, the interview with Bishop Graves that I thought had been lost for all time, but luckily I managed to find it, and I've included it here. It's going to be very similar to the retake that he did, but I think there's enough difference in there that it's worth repeating. Also, I got to listening to it, and there's some stumbles on my part at the very beginning, and I talk about how we can always do a redo and that kind of stuff. I just sort of left that in, so you can get an idea that everything you hear is not always cut and dried, so to speak. Everything is not edited with all the mistakes out of it. We can have fun even with the mistakes as well. So I just invite you to sit back and to enjoy the conversation I had with Bishop Graves at Annual Conference this past year. Well, I'm here today at Annual Conference, and strolling down the path is one of the, what's the word I'm looking for? Let me find the right word here. Start over. If we make a mistake, we edit this out, okay?
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. I'm
not one of the favorites. You're one of the favorites. What's the word?
I'm a Holstonian.
A Holstonian.
This is my home conference. This is where I've come from,
Yeah, okay. So here at Annual Conference today, I look up, and what do I behold but a fellow Holstonian all the way back to us from the Alabama-West-Florida-conference. Let's see if you recognize this voice.
Well, I just want to say hello to everyone. David Graves, Bishop of Alabama-West-Florida. It's so good to be back at Lake Junaluska, home to the Holston Annual Conference.
Well, we realize you've made that transition to Alabama, West Florida. What's it like down there? Describe the annual conference for us.
Well, kind of the way I describe it, everybody in the Holston Conference likes to go to the beach, and everybody at the beach likes to come to the mountains. And so it's the flat, it's the Gulf of Mexico, but there's wonderful people just like here, and church is doing great ministry. And so they have made us feel so welcomed and so at home there. We fallen in love with the people very quickly.
What are some of the significant ministries of that annual conference?
One of the things is transformational ministries, where we're really trying to do a lot of partnerships with churches and communities, trying to help with poverty, because poverty, of course, is one of the 4 areas of focus. Also, church growth is a real emphasis there. And along the Gulf Coast, from Mobile to Panama City, population is growing at a rapid rate. We've got some of our large membership churches there. We look to start 5 new churches in the next 4 to 5 years because of the population growth. And I think one of the uniquenesses is, we've got only one camp. We've got kind of one college. But one of the things you always have to wrestle with there is football is king in the state of Alabama. And everybody wants to know, are you going to root for Auburn or Alabama? I said, I'm neither one of them. I'm a Vol for life.
Well, hopefully that will win you some friends in that area.
I think I've met 18 Tennessee fans so far.
Sort of like David Tabor, who's the strong Alabama fan here in this area.
Yeah, that's correct.
Well, one of the things that you experience that very few people get a chance to experience is the transition that occurs from being a local pastor to being a bishop. What surprised you? What was different than you thought it was going to be? What was harder than you thought it was going to be?
Well, I think my time on the cabinet, my 6 years as a district superintendent, really helped me to know the role of bishop. I guess the most difficult thing is when you make that transition, you are, the buck stops totally with you. And so I was having a conversation with my cabinet early on, and I said, what do you think if we thought about doing this or doing that? And it was just dead silence around the table. And somebody looked up and said, well, Bishop, you're the bishop. You can do whatever you want to. So, you do have tremendous amounts of authority and power. And just like when I was a district superintendent and as a pastor, you have to have a sense of accountability and humility to that. So what is really, I think, exciting me is I just have the total freedom to lead, And my emphasis now is how I can pour back into other people's lives and how I can help them be successful in their lives, their families, and their ministry. The hardest part about it is I think you're really connected to the general church in a greater way now because you're part of the Council of Bishops, and there's a lot of differing views about how all the church should work around that. And so that's been the greatest challenge, I think, is just being how I'm going to be a part and lead within the whole council and realizing, you're, as a bishop, you represent the general church as well.
Well, I've saved the most difficult theological question for the end. Folks have just been totally taken aback and stumped by this question. I hope that you can give a declarative answer. Okay? What would you consider your favorite dessert to be?
My favorite dessert is chocolate ice cream. No question about it.
You go for the sundae with a caramel drizzle or anything?
No, I just like straight chocolate. I'm just a plain, simple chocolate ice cream kind of guy.
Milk chocolate or one of those darker chocolates?
Darker chocolate just makes it better.
I want to thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much.
This is Pastor Goodman. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Wesleyan Connection. Be sure to check back often for more podcasts.